All right, long balls here on Monday, July 21st. Long ball number one.
One second. Right, you're steamrolling me. I'm trying to jump in here. I want to shout out our member MK Ultra Chris, who said hell of a weekend in D4 leagues. Down there in USL League 2, they had some playoffs. They have some playoffs happening. I know that's captured a lot of attention. I just want to acknowledge this, and I want to acknowledge Chris because he sends us a bit of money every month to be an MK Ultra. So my apologies for stopping you in your tracks, Robert. You were full steam ahead. You were like that train that you have to jump on top of to stop. It's not a Denzel Washington movie where he's got to stop the train because it's out of control.
There's a Danger Train video, and I actually just watched one of the old Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans where he stops an L train with his feet and various webbing.
That's part of the Incredibles too. There's a train, out of control train in that one. It's like Speed, but with a train is what I'm thinking of. And anyway, you're a train, so continue.
I should stop being so cliche and training along. But yeah, shout out. We're talking about kits. I was on Midwest Premier League commentary duty. Picked up a Troy United yesterday. That was a good one. But yeah, I don't know if you followed along, but the USL 2 playoffs, there was all sorts of crazy stuff up in Flint. Extra time, Flint Bucks taking out Fort Wayne. Sorry to the MK Ultras riding along with Fort Wayne, but they fell in extra time last night in Flint.
Shout out to Vermont Green, who advanced as well. I know that's lots of very excited people up there in Vermont. I believe Bernie Sanders on hand.
You're kidding me.
Been to a number of Vermont Green games, I believe, and I believe he was there again this weekend for Vermont Green. So that's that's always interesting when local dignitaries get involved in lower league soccer. We like that.
Oh yeah, he's where the people are. Oh, bless him. But we're talking some of the best rivalry names in American sports were played out this weekend. Famously, El Trafico, an exciting 3-3. But El Clamico in the East, the lesser known, the newer of the two golden named rivalry matches, El Clamico, Rhode Island versus Hartford, a 0-0. So we'll put the spotlight at first to that 3-3. Lots of action here. And as always, or seemingly always, this match never short of drama and late game heroics. It was a Galaxy equalizer there at the death.
It was, and I believe I'm sure LAFC is extremely annoyed at the fact that they conceded that goal. There was a red card just before that, as there were some shenanigans, some roustabouting. What's another good a kerfuffle? There was a kerfuffle.
I'm definitely not beating roustabouting.
I don't think that's. I don't know that you. I think you can have a roustabout. I don't know if you can actually roustabout as a verb.
Do you roustabout when you're getting at the tomfoolery?
If you're in roustabouting is usually a little bit more violent than tomfoolery. And in this case, it was a little bit more of it wasn't violent. I mean, there weren't punches thrown, but there was a coming together, handbags, as some people used to call them, a fracas. I guess you say fracas or you say fracas?
I said fracas.
You say is that a Midwestern thing? Is that I'm just curious. I mean, this is like, the regional dialect question.
I've never heard an alternate pronunciation of it. That's the only thing I know about it. And with all this pronunciation talk, we're going to be at loggerheads here in a minute.
We are going to be at loggerheads, but you're saying it's a fracas, and I'm saying maybe it's a fracas. You never heard fracas? Never?
I haven't. Okay, sir. I have not.
All right. Well, this is a mystery now we have to get to the bottom of, and maybe Jenny will give us her thoughts as to whether it's fracas or fracas, and we'll pass that along. All right.
There's no Y in fracas.
There's no Y in fracas. Why would it be a long A? I cannot tell you, Rob. It might be. It might be. All right. Look, El Trafico. Right. It was Jenny's on your side. That stinks for me. El Trafico 3-3 with a fracas. I'm sorry, a fracas with a late header with Denis Bouanga just doing Denis Bouanga things like that. At some points you're like, oh, they kind of know what he's going to do. Maybe there are ways to stop him. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to beat Denis Bouanga in a foot race over even 60 yards with the ball at his feet. Maybe you should be careful in possession and not give up those opportunities so that he can charge down on your keeper, Rob. But that was a very entertaining game. 3 goals each, 6 goals all total. Love that in a rivalry. Not so sure I love a goalless draw in El Clamico, which I'm also not sold on the name either, Rob.
It's funny when I was joking about it with my spouse over the weekend. She at first thought kind of withdrew. She thought it was going to be some sort of like very gross related name.
Wait a second. That's how far Lamb has now gone that we're not even allowed to reference it without it invoking bad images of like.
Once I get provided better context with like, hey, there's this game called El Clasico which spawned El Trafico, and now there's El Clamico. It made sense and was less gross, but on the front, on the first introduction of the topic, she was not enthused by that. But yeah, 0-0, and both of these teams not doing so well respectively, pretty low down in the Eastern Conference in USL Championship. So I guess not a huge surprise that they were scoreless, I suppose.
Yeah, I spaced on this a little bit. I took my kid to his little gym class yesterday. He has a gym class on Sunday mornings, and I'm standing there next to one of the dads, and he's wearing a Portugal national team shirt. And I had previously seen him in a Pumas jersey, so I know he's a soccer guy. So now I got this, I don't often wear jerseys. Sometimes I do. We haven't had one of those situations where we're both wearing jerseys and we can do like we're soccer guys. But I ended up talking to him anyway about some other things, and we got to soccer a little bit. And he said he was from Rhode Island, and I forgot to mention El Clamico. I wonder how he would have responded. Because I get the sense he probably didn't know it was happening. Because despite the fact he's from Rhode Island, and my guess is, having moved to the Washington, D.C. area, he didn't mention it. He wasn't like, yeah, my local team is Rhode Island FC. He was just kind of saying, oh, yeah, I'm a soccer fan, but I moved here from Rhode Island. So maybe I should have brought up El Clamico. That would have been a nice icebreaker to say, hey, have you heard about this rivalry between Rhode Island and Hartford? It's called El Clamico, and see how a Rhode Islander responded to that in the wild. It would have been interesting.
Yeah, would that have been right in the pocket? Like, oh yeah, like totally anything around here would totally just be called Clamico. Only 75 miles apart between. So I think from the pictures, it looked like there was a really nice atmosphere there. Maybe no goals, but a nice scene.
Well, yeah, and look, this is what we want, right? We want whatever the result of the game, and have whatever how many goals are scored. What we want are local rivalries, intense matches, passion from fans who are there to support their local team, right? And I don't care if it's MLS or USL Championship, USL League One, USL League Two. We're going to talk about one of those USL League Two teams, I think, a little bit later. I don't care. I just want people to connect to their teams. And I got into a little bit of a thing with somebody in the comments on one of our videos, right? This idea that everything is kind of created here. And what we really need are factory teams or a bunch of lads getting together and starting a club. And that it needs to be organic, just like it was in England or in Italy or in France or whatever. And I'm like, dude, that ship sailed a long time ago. In fact, we moved on from ships. Now we got airplanes. Like we don't need, that's not a thing that can happen. I mean, it can, I suppose a bunch of guys get together and start a club, Rob, and it happened in Detroit. But my point is, like, money has to enter the picture at some point. Unless you want to sort of blow up the whole system, shut down all the pro teams, and then have a bunch of these actual clubs form, and then we wait for a century for it to become like a thing? Like, I don't know what that is. Like, I understand the romantic notion of it, and I understand like the desire to have clubs that sort of organically represent their communities rather than it being forced upon them, particularly when people who maybe are from out of town come in and go, yeah, we're going to start a club and we're going to do a mixed use development so I can get my hands on some real estate. No, if that soccer team does well, okay, great. Like, I would prefer that it not be like that, but I would also prefer clubs exist than not. And I know that's very reductive, but if we're going to have any hope that our map is completely dotted with soccer teams and successful ones that aren't going to collapse in 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years, then we just got to start having people being willing to put the money down.
I think it was in the commentary on our Nisa video, but in amongst the communications connected to Morning Kicker, someone was saying that maybe the shift at the grassroots level should be more a steel industry than tech startup. That maybe you just front end load tons of infrastructure and investment, and then long play it rather than narrow moving, bit
I
by
see what you're
bit
saying.
sort of thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. That is an interesting question. Obviously, the way that investment works in a modern world, and it's all colored by tech startups and those kind of things. And obviously, you can have startups in other industries. But I do think that this sense of like, how do you launch a company is, well, we start with an idea and then we just ask a bunch of people to give us money so they can have a share of the company. And then we, try to build that out. And obviously, with soccer, it's very difficult to get to sort of get momentum ahead of you, going forward so that you can start bringing in money so that you can become self-sustaining. I don't know, let's hope that all happens in various places, that these clubs that are starting are not sort of running out of money in 2 or 3 years, because it's difficult. If you want to front load it, I do believe that Eric Stover mentioned something like that for his team in Jersey. Right? They want to bring in a bunch of investment so they can say, here's our longer play. Here's our decade worth of investment. And obviously, if they start getting momentum and they start bringing in money, well, then, get self-sustaining as soon as possible. But you do kind of need that runway you're talking about. That is interesting.